Welcome, Ms. Weber.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, when you're ready, you may begin to give us your opening remarks.
Thank you very much. Chairperson Justice Wiggins and members of the commission, thank you, first of all, for your service and dedication to this very important responsibility. My goal is to serve the people of Iowa as a judge on the Iowa Court of Appeals. Now, in over 18 years as an attorney, I've been a judicial law clerk, a senior counsel for the United States Secret Service, and a trial attorney with the Iowa Attorney General's office. I've had numerous civil jury trials in the past few years, and in addition to my law degree, I have a master's degree in public policy from Georgetown University. And during my time with the Secret Service, I worked with the United States Department of Justice on federal litigation, and I also did legislative and policy work, which I believe made me a more well-rounded attorney. Now, throughout my career, I have chosen to do public service. And I want this job because I want to do interesting and challenging work in a way that contributes to the well-being of society. And I want to do that for the people of Iowa. If I'm selected for this position, I believe that I would show 5 characteristics. First, strong analytical and legal research and writing skills. Second, thoroughness and dedication. Third, integrity and impartiality. 4, collegiality, and 5, respect. Now, first, I have strong analytical, legal research and writing skills. Now, as you know, at the Court of Appeals, judges are primarily deciding cases on settled areas of law. And then the decision needs to be written in a way that clearly conveys the reasoning and the result. My writing, I believe, does that, is easy to understand, and reflects attention to detail. Now, because our Court of Appeals judges have a high volume of cases, I believe it's important not just to be a good writer, but to be an efficient writer. I strive to do that, to say enough to make the points that I need to make in my writing, but not so much that I'm writing treatises on every subject. I think the best way to become skilled at the craft of writing opinions is to write opinions. And I have done that. I've drafted numerous opinions during my time as a law clerk to federal judges. I've worked on complex cases in civil areas of law as well as federal, or as well as criminal. And I believe it's important also to have the skills to get up to speed quickly. So working on new areas of the law, I think, would not be a problem for me due to my research and ability to get up to speed in new areas of the law. The work of an appellate judge, I think, is fundamentally different from the work of a trial judge. And over my career, I have demonstrated the skills, the characteristics needed to succeed as an appellate judge. Now, second, I am thorough, and I have the dedication and work ethic to excel in this position. Now, every dispute is important to the parties, and I would give each case the attention that the attorneys and the litigants deserve. It's an important case to the litigant. It could be everything. It could be his or her freedom at stake, livelihood, or relationship with a family member. So it's very important to give the arguments full and fair and thorough consideration, and it's important to be accurate from the facts all the way through to the final proofreading and citations of the opinion. Now, third, I would act with integrity and impartiality. Judges, as we all know, must be fair and impartial, deciding cases without bias, without regard to race, gender, economic circumstances, and other characteristics. I want to do what is right according to the law, and I'm comfortable with asserting my views and telling others what I think, articulating my decision, even if it's not a popular decision. I'm honest, and I will tell you what I think. I believe in the rule of law and the Constitution. I'm not here to advance any personal agenda. I only seek to do justice. Now, I believe there's also an important role for judges that is separate from deciding cases. Judges should be part of overall dialogue and efforts to improve the system of justice. For example, they should be part of efforts to be on committees or task forces to look for ways to improve our justice system, because judges can often spot reoccurring issues or problems or patterns in cases and recommend solutions. We can always look for ways to be better. And fourth, I would show collegiality. I grew up in Centerville, rural southern Iowa. My roots in southern Iowa go back a number of generations. I went away to college and law school and worked for a number of years in Washington, D.C. I think I have the ability to relate well to people, to get along with people of all types of backgrounds, and to find common ground to get the job done. I like that approach. I like to work with others. Teamwork is often important in the cases that I've worked on. I think there's a real benefit to that. There's camaraderie that develops when you work together, and being able to exchange views on a case, or as a judge on the Court of Appeals with fellow judges who are on the panel with you, I think just improves the overall result and the outcome, because it opens your eyes often to new insights and things that you hadn't thought about before. And I would strive to listen, to show collegiality in that work, and my ability to discuss cases with fellow judges, to actively listen to the views of others, and to ultimately reach a decision. Now, fifth, I would show respect. Judges must make the right decision based on the law, but it's also important to show respect, to treat attorneys and litigants in a way that shows them that their case matters. One side will always disagree with the outcome, and people, frankly, may forget the details of a particular case, but they'll remember how they were treated. And it's important for people to know that they have had their day in court, they have been heard, their arguments have been given full and fair consideration. That way, they will come away from the process with an understanding and a feeling that it has been a fair and a just process. In the United States Secret Service, our motto was worthy of trust and confidence, and I continue to believe that that is something that our courts should be as well, worthy of trust and confidence. It's important that the public and the litigants respect and have confidence in our judiciary and in the process of how cases are handled in our Iowa courts, and I would do my best to promote that from within. On the topic of respect, now I also would respect not just the power, but the limits of the judiciary. I believe in the separation of powers in the three branches of government, and that the role of the judicial branch is to interpret the law, the role of the executive is to execute the law, and that the role of the legislature is to make the law. Judges may think sometimes that they know best, but need to be careful not to intrude on the other branches of government. And another limit of the judiciary that I would recognize is that aside from some rare exceptions such as jurisdiction, judges should not raise issues for the parties, for the litigants. It does, I think, confuse the separate roles of our system when judges become advocates for one side or the other. And a third type of judicial restraint is that judges should only decide the issues that need to be decided for that case before them, and not to unnecessarily decide issues, but leave other issues for another day. There'll be another case, another day. I've thought about it, and I think for me, the biggest challenge of this level of the Iowa Court of Appeals to serve as a judge at this point would be balancing that weighty responsibility of wanting to get it right with the need for efficiency in getting it done. You know, with the high volume of the caseload on the Iowa Court of Appeals, you want to get it right, but you also got to get it done. But I'm up for that. I enjoy a challenge, and I think it would be a challenge, but many challenging things, the most challenging work can often be very rewarding and fulfilling. So I think I'm up for that task to do that. I made my choice to come back to Iowa, and I'm now, as I mentioned, I'm from Centerville, but I now live in between the small towns of Van Meter and Adel in Dallas County. And as for my personal life, I'm a wife and a mother. I have 4 boys. They range in ages from 5 to 15. So much of my free time is spent with their activities. I also enjoy reading, traveling, running occasional road races, although much slower than I used to, and just spending time outdoors and with my family. Now, there is a saying that the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior, and the best predictor of how I would do, I believe, on the Court of Appeals is the quality of my past work and my commitment to public service. Serving on the court is a true public service to the people of Iowa, and it would be an honor and a privilege to serve in that role. If given the opportunity, I would do my best. Thank you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you very much. Mr. Gray?
Thank you. Thank you very much for your application. One of the things that we've heard today and in the past is that it's important for a Court of Appeals judge to have some district court judge experience. Do you think that's true?
Not necessarily. I think that that is one path, and it certainly is a good path for many people to the court, but it's not the only path, and it's definitely not a prerequisite in my mind. I think the work of a district court judge is different. You're in the courtroom, handling the cases, the day-to-day managing of the courtroom, making quick decisions, oftentimes ruling on evidentiary matters or things in a trial. So that day-to-day work is a little bit different from the work of an appellate judge that's more research and writing, a little more removed from the day-to-day courtroom work, time for reflection and detail on the issues. I'm somebody who is more suited to that type of work. I enjoy that diving into the issues, the research, the writing type of work. And I think you can be good at that without having been a district court judge. I think as long as you've been in the system, and I've done, trials, and I've been, practicing, you can learn what it's like at that level, at the trial court level, without being the one in charge in the courtroom. So I think they're different skills. Certainly you can be an excellent district judge and an excellent appellate judge, but you don't necessarily need to have the experience of one to have the other. And I think it's also good to have a variety of experiences in the judges that come to the Iowa Court of Appeals.
Thank you very much.
Yes, you're welcome.
Mr. Horbach?
I have no questions.
Ms. O'Brien?
Thank you. I see from your application that you handled a big Open Records Act litigation when you were working for the Secret Service. What other type of work did you do for the Secret Service that you can discuss with us? Mm-hmm. And how do you think that prepares you for the Court of Appeals?
And thank you for that question. Yes, I handled a series of cases that went to litigation involving records issues. I also did quite a bit of working with the trial attorneys that handled the Secret Service's cases for the Department of Justice, working as sort of their link to the agency, to the facts, to the people, to help them understand the people involved in a case. So whether it be putting together affidavits, declarations, exhibits, things like that. So a lot of it was litigation. As a federal agency would have many of the same typical kinds of cases that other federal agencies would have as far as employment cases or Federal Tort Claims Act cases. Secret Service had a little bit of some other unique types of cases involving search and seizure and those type of alleged constitutional violations. But it was nice that outside of the litigation, there was also time to do other work on, as I mentioned, legislative and policy areas. There was a lot of change when I started. We had moved from the Department of the Treasury, the U.S. Department of the Treasury, into the brand new Department of Homeland Security. So there was a lot of just changes in policy going to a new department and looking at policy, looking at laws or possible changes to the law for how would it impact our agency, the Secret Service. We also made a significant change to the legislative authority of the Uniform Division of the Secret Service. So that was really a learning experience to be part of a complete, legislative process, to see it through all the way to actual, amendment to a new statute. I think those skills help me to understand a lot of the other aspects of work that go into, a law or a policy decision before it gets to the point where it's in a case, in a decision for the judge to interpret. I think I understand, a lot of the legislative background, the history that you have to go through when you have a new statute. I just feel like I have a broader perspective on the types of, work that's involved in working on a statute. I also think working with the Secret Service, we worked quite a bit in teams, and I feel like I developed a real ability to work with people of all different types of levels, from people out in the field or agents working on cases to assistant directors to the director of the Secret Service, to be able to, turn one direction and get the facts that you needed for a case, but then also to be able to turn the other direction and brief higher-level officials about the important significance of things and the developments in a case. So I think a combination of all of those has made me a more well-rounded, experienced person to be able to handle this role.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Ms. Roberts?
Thank you, and I was actually going to ask a question so that you could explain more about what you did with the Secret Service.
Yeah.
So thank you for asking that question and sharing that information. If I understand correctly, it's pretty competitive to be hired in the role that you had with the Secret Service. Do you know about how many applicants there were for that position?
For my position when I was hired?
Yes.
I don't know the exact number, but I know that someone told me later after I was hired, whether it was my boss that hired me or someone else, I can't remember, that there were around 800 applicants for my position. So I was surprised at that. Somehow, I don't know, I was fortunate enough to be chosen through that process. And I'm sure it varies, quite a bit, but yeah, that's what I was told.
Thank you, and I had heard that as well. And I think it's wonderful. It's a great example of, growing up in a small town and having the opportunity to make such a huge impact in our nation, so thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Conover?
No questions.
Mr. Bloom?
No questions.
Mr. Goodman?
No questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
Ms. Diekma?
No questions, thank you.
Ms. Sinclair?
Have you ever applied to be on the district court? And if not, why not?
No, I have not applied to be on the district court, and I think it relates to my answer that I was just giving to Mr. Gray, and that I know myself, and I don't feel like that role, I would be as well suited to that role. I think the type of work that I really enjoy is not as much of the management, day-to-day quick decisions of the courtroom, but the time to spend on research and writing and appellate work. So I just feel like that is more of the skills that I have, and the interest level that I have, and the type of work I would enjoy. So I have not chosen to apply for a district judge, and I've just focused on the appellate work. So that's right.
Mr. Sukup?
No questions.
Mr. Bevel?
No questions.
Ms. Law?
No questions.
Mr. Diaz?
No questions.
Mr. Berger?
No questions.
Ms. Bowden?
No questions.
Ms. Pearson?
No questions.
I have one question, and right now you're at the AG's office, and I think you argued a case last month, didn't you? Or was it
I
the month
did.
before?
My first case arguing, and before that I was Supreme Court.
I
Yes.
remember they sort of, you shared time and they cut you short, but I hope we took care of you.
Oh, it was a good way to start because it was short. It was only a couple minutes.
But anyway,
Yeah.
Tell me, in your current position, what you least like about what you have to do.
That's a good question.
And it's live streamed, just so
I know. Oh, let me see.
We'll tell Tom Miller to turn away.
I know. I think it's a challenge to sometimes, we do work very hard, and sometimes we're often asked to do more with less, just in the amount of people and resources that we have in our office. Of course, we always would enjoy the ability to have more staff and more, greater budget to do our work. So at times it does get very busy, when you're just trying to keep up with the caseload and the work. And I have, had a few disappointments along the way where, a result in something wasn't what I expected. And I think you go through life and you think if you give it your all, you do your very best at a job, at a work, you're going to get the good result, you're going to get the right result, but you don't always get that result that you expect or that you want. And so it's been challenging. Sometimes you just have to learn how to deal with the disappointments and to wake up the next day and think, okay, I could have maybe done something different, but I can't change that. I have to go on, move forward, and put that behind me and recognize that there's another day, another case. So that's some of what I've learned.
Okay, well, thank you very much, and we wish you the best of luck, and thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.